Mr. Robot, Demon Servers, Demons Never Stop.caf. Great soundtrack, by the way. Mr. Robot soundtrack. This is the Sony TA-ZH1ES. You'll get it in a bit. This is their premier, flagship, flag premier, top of the line, world-class headphone amplifier DAC. And it's costly. Let's just say it costs a lot. Let's just say it costs a fucking lot. And let's talk about it. Now I've got 6 headphones on this desk, 4 and 2, and every one of them I can select and choose to listen to with the push of a button on a remote. So Sony hasn't done much good in the world of audio. They did in the past, obviously. They brought out the Walkman, and they were the SPDIF, fiber optic SPDIF, is Sony Philips digital interconnect format. So they've worked on actual classifications and things. But only recently have they started getting into the audiophile game, like the Z1Rs. And the Z1Rs were a very weird entry point because they weren't very audiophile. They're very well built, and I love the way they sound, but they were just sort of like the big fun, wide thing, and that's not really what audiophiles want. Not like the real audiophiles that have the thousands of dollars to spend. They want brutal detail and no fun at all. So I like to see what Sony's coming out with. And this amp is no exception. Now, an owner, a user, a patron actually loaned this to me. So I'm going to have to get it back to them. And we're going to talk about it for a little while. And we're talking about the 6 headphones that are up here. And we're talking about the cool features that this thing has. Because it has some very nice things that I like. And then at the same time, it's like, it's just expensive. It's real expensive. So again, on ZEOS Platinum, like the 4th episode of ZEOS Platinum, we should probably start with how much it weighs, which is a... You know how you could judge if something's heavy? If you're not willing to put a set of headphones you like under it and then drop it, it's probably very heavy. So I would not put the Aeolus underneath it and drop it. I want to point your attention to the bottom of it, which is this beautifully painted, just sheet steel cover. All the venting, all the circuit boards down here, the wiring you could see. I was not willing to open this thing up. It's got a fuck trillion of screws. Model number TA-ZH1ES. TA-ZH1ES. Perfect. Made in Malaysia. Not even Japan. So I guess I have to give it to them for that, though. I love the textured, like, bulletproof. Is it metal? Is it polymer? I don't. It feels like metal. I think it's metal. It's just, I like it. I like touching this thing. So many other things are just like black, aluminum, done. This has got like dimples all over the top of it. And then out here is this vent so that all that heat that comes through the top can be vented out the side or radiated out the top. The one thing I noticed when I was unboxing it, which I have an unboxing channel, by the way, link in the description, although this one might not be on there because I'm way behind. Yeah, no, that's backwards. Someone put a fucking high-res audio sticker on it. I'm pretty sure Sony did, but it's a sticker. It's a fucking sticker. You can't take an amp that costs this much and just be like, next. High-res audio doesn't mean anything. It means you can produce 20,000 to 20 to 20,000 hertz. That's literally what defines something that can produce high-res audio. So every Bluetooth dongle can produce that. So you could stick a high-res audio sticker on that. I literally have, here, look, an extra high-res audio sticker that I'm going to put on my sous vide or something, or my bidet. My bidet might need one. Just for shits and giggles. It's become the meme, and it shouldn't be on something as pretty as this. Although it does sort of stand out, I just wish if they're gonna include it, it isn't just a sticker. Interesting control layout. Buttons on top, screen on top, gain switch on top, outputs in the front other than the outputs to the back. We've got, I'll describe the back. I'm gonna probably, when I'm done with at the end of this review, if you wanna see what all the plugs and holes are, I'm gonna unplug everything, shut it off, and then spin it around. But it's hooked up currently to everything you see on this desk. And I'm rather happy about that. Not many things I could say I filled all their holes, but I could fill all this thing's holes. I'm like that close. Power, I don't think there's a power switch. It's just a voltage selector. Then you get the standard complement of USB input, coaxial digital input, fiber optic input. I'm using fiber optic. And then you get 2 pairs of RCAs. One is an input, and I'm inputting from the Geshelli Labs Enoch 2, just to give a comparison between the $200 DAC and the internal DAC. And then I'm outputting through the pre-out, which you were just listening to, or I was just listening to. When I unmute this, it's down here. Those sendies being powered by the 789, the 789 is getting signal from this. So those are a good pair of headphones to test a DAC to. One of the coolest features is Sony. Here's the thing. Do you remember mini disc players? I'm going to go off on a slight tangent. Like, let's just drive along and then, oh, look at that pretty bird over there. Sony used to make the coolest stuff. Mavica floppy disk cameras, mini disc players, Walkmans, portable like handheld TVs. And the world doesn't need that stuff anymore because we have cell phones, which is one of the most boring things on earth. Have you seen the new cell phone? It's square with a screen, or it's rectangular with a screen, and then it's got like a thing. Boring. Old Sony mini disc players used to have like knobs and screens that slid across, and they would slide open and expose it. They were so fucking cool, and that age is dead. And that's sad. So this is sort of like this feels like something that if it came out in like 1999 would have been the coolest thing ever. And the simplest. So we get a power button here. Can we handle the power button? It powers it off. Let's look at the remote while it's off. Can we look at the remote? Look at this remote. Look at this. Here's like the remote you get with a standard piece of, well, the Dilv Poetry, like $120 USB speaker amp DAC Bluetooth. It's got, it's a standard thing, but look at this. This is an inspired thing. This should be the default for cheap stuff because it's just so simple. It fits nicely in the hand. The corners are a little bit sharp if I'm going to be real specific about it, but I like holding this thing. I like that that's the volume right there under your thumb. And you can tell what everything is because it's all organized. Power, input, output, Dsd Room Mastering, DCHX, mute, DCHX, DSEEHX, dimmer for the top panel, which you can shut off entirely or go bright or go dark. Your volume in big, bold things with a little nipple so you know which one's up. Muting and display will just switch between 2 different displays. That's it. That's it. I like this stick. This is a good stick. Stick, stupid. I like this stick. More companies need to just simplify things. I could have 6 of these sitting on my coffee table, and I wouldn't be upset because it's not these big, bulky... I like it. I like sticks. You put this next to the edifier circle, and you're going to have a fight. Simplicity in operation. Power, input, output, menu back, enter. There's an up, down here, and a gain switch. That's it. That's the top. Input, PC USB not hooked up. Input, Walkman. I should already talk about this. Sony's trying to bring back the Walkman. I haven't gotten one yet. I'm hoping to get one. Problem is they're real fucking expensive or they're cheap. The little cheap ones are actually very nice. But here's a proprietary USB micro. Like it's just USB micro, but it's got this like hole bit in here that also attaches so that the thing can slot in this way. So it's specifically got an input so that you could digitally plug in your Walkman. I know, Zeals, what year is it? 2019. So you get input, Walkman, fixed, so we'll just fix input from Walkman. Analog line, which is the Geshelli Labs. Digital coaxial, digital optical, USB. That's it. Walkman, analog. I'm putting on an optical. I can switch to the analog in a second. So that's it. You pick your input. Now let's pick your output. XLR4, and we could unmute this. Luca Stragnoli Paradise is playing. Let's see. Every one of the headphones here is plugged in and working, by the way. Let me talk about specs for a second before I go into it. Let me lower this down so I don't have to mute it. Let's hide AI Chan for a second. Let's go to the spec page. Power. Now this has balanced outputs and unbalanced outputs. The balanced outputs, which is the ones I always prefer, at 32 ohms is 1.2 watts. Just to give you a point of reference, the THX789 is 6,000 milliwatts. That's 1,200 milliwatts. That's 6,000. That's so it's not going for sheer bloody power. It's just not. It's not doing it. It does have a high-low gain switch, although it doesn't explain what it does. It feels like about a 10 decibel boost. It'll handle impedances from 12 to 600 ohms. Yay. Oh, the unbalanced output. So the balanced is 1,200 milliwatt. The unbalanced, which is 1/4 inch, 3.5 millimeter, only 300 milliwatt. That's rather alarming, because even a JDS Labs Atom or a Liquid Spark are going to have more power than this. So it's like, I'm making a face. You can't see the face I'm making, but I'm making a face. And what else we got to read from here? DSD up to 22.4 megahertz. DSD DOP up to 11.2 megahertz. And PCM up to 76832. So numbers that I don't care about, because frankly, unless I could have all 20,000 songs in my library at that, I don't care. I don't want to have 9 albums that are mastered in this, godlike format that I have to have this unit, and then I have to have like a solid state external to keep it on so to feed the data fast. I don't care. Everything was MP3. I dumped MP3 in 2009 and went to FLAC, and until something is legitimately more convenient and available than FLAC, I'm just going to stick with it. Now, what was I just talking about? I got off on another tangent? Yes, sorry, Z Reviews. Welcome to Z Reviews. Please join my Patreon so I can get diagnosed properly by a doctor. The output selection. All these headphones are hooked up. You pick your input and you pick your output. And when you pick your output, fuck, this thing is so heavy. When you pick your output, I hope you could see this, by the way. A light comes on above every one of them that you're picking to indicate what you're doing. Then it goes to the rears. Richard Cheese Sunday Bloody Sunday. That is cool. Now, granted, this has a little bit more in the way of number of outputs than most devices do. And things like the THX are just, all those are on at the same time. Which they shouldn't be, because you could plug in 3 things and then it throws off the impedance and is bad. But I like that. There's just a little white light. I want to output to that. I think I'm outputting to that, or these two. Because these two are a separate thing. Which is, by the way, I'm running. If you haven't noticed, I got that purple theme going. It's very, very Thanos in here. I'm Team Thanos. Go Thanos. And the fact that I can even make this happen gives me a little bit of a chubby. You can't see it because I'm looking up, but it's there. What else we got? We've got indicators in the front. That's a DCHX, which is on the remote, and DSD RE, which is DSD Remaster. And those are it's like upscaling, or I'm going to call one a DSP correction, because we're going to have to go through some stuff. All right. Can you handle power? Power is on and off. Good. Input, choose the back which input you want. Good. Output, choose if you want these outs or any of these outs. Great. Here's the screen currently telling me I have a digital optical input. Tells me the volume is at negative 50 or 48 or 30 or 27. Hold on. Lethal Weapon 2, Knocking on Heaven's Door. Oh, only the classics are playing today. Forever Nightshade, Mary from Latin Playboys. Put that on. So these actually require a shit ton of power, by the way, and I'm powering through the one of the balance, so they're getting 1.2 watts a side. So moving along, we see the volume, we see what's playing back, PCM 44.1. Now let's go to the menu and then the selection, which, thank you. Thank you, Sony, for literally just giving me an up and down key. up and down and enter and back. Up, down, enter, back. I'm dealing with that fucking Monoprice deck, the THX one, and it's got 2 buttons and a knob, and it's like button. So menu. Here, let's go through all the choices. DCHX off, Dsd Room Mastering off, DC Phase Linearizer. And I've read about what this is, and according to the website, and I'm not joking, this is to make things sound more analog, like they should if this wasn't a digital amp. So I'm going to scroll up, hold on. Yeah, DC Phase Linearizer. Familiar analog-like sound. So it's not analog sound, it's analog-like. And our DC phase linear works to effectively replicate the phase characteristics of a typical analog amplifier. It matches the phase characteristics of the analog amplifier to deliver a more analog-like sound. They use the word analog a million times. You know why? Audiophiles love that shit. Purists, real purists, are like, digital? Not in my day when I'm dead. So this will help those people buy this unit. And I have it on, but honestly, I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to hit down because it's an arrow, and it's off. I'm going to hit back. So now it's off because give me that digital sound, you bastards. You old fucks. I see you watching me. I don't care. It really, what that sounds like it's doing is it's fucking with it. Don't fuck with it. The less this can fuck with it, the better. Dimmer, bright. Can you handle dimmer, bright, and then dimmer, dark? And then display off. And that's a menu that obviously doesn't shut off until you're done. You have it on the remote, don't worry about it. Display normal. Now there's 2 display settings. Either just stuff that shows you information, or what shows you what's being converted from whatever to DSD or DSD to 64 DSD. So leave it on normal. Auto volume down. That's when you switch things, unplug things, it'll automatically lower the volume. Always a good safety feature. I like it. This one was a little weird, because you can choose on the analog input, so in other words, the Geshelli Labs Enoch 2, which is what I'm using as an analog input, you can choose the upscaling. This thing is all about up-converting and upscaling the audio. And if I go into it, I can go all the way up to DSD 11.2 megahertz. It'll upscale the, whatever it is, 192 that's coming out of there, or 44.1. And honestly, it didn't sound very good when I did that. I don't know if it was just cutting voltage because it was doing so much processing, and it was just extremely much lower than the optical input internal DAC. But as I went down in the formats, it was sort of like, oh, that sounds better for what I'm doing. So I basically put it to PCM 192 and not on the DSD upscale, and that's where I'm going to leave it, because that's what I think sounds the closest to correct as far as what this DAC is putting out and that DAC is putting out. Just going back on that. Pre-out. So now the pre-out on this is setting up to the THX 789. And I have it set to a fixed volume on this, so this doesn't do anything. And that's good because that has a volume knob on its own. So you can set this up in a living room or on your computer desk or on any desk you want. Have it output a fixed voltage to another amplifier, whether that's like a standard amplifier, like a bass X or something with a volume knob, an integrated amplifier, a surround receiver, or if you switch it from fixed to variable, you could have the RCAs in this go out to a power amp, like a Crown or a QSC or any number of powered monitors, and you can control the powered monitors with this output, and that's a great idea. I like that option. It's buried in the menu, but it's there. This is either fixed or variable depending on what you set it to. Auto standby on, pretty self-explanatory, nothing extreme there. And then you can adjust the left-right balance. Now, I thought this was interesting because you could do it in quarter decibel increments, and you have to press, you can't hold it to go up or down. I'm at 3.75, and I have to press this every quarter decibel to go anywhere I want to go. And I kind of wish you could just hold it and have it sweep, but that's like the only time in the menu you actually have to go up or down a lot with those buttons. So I'm going to give it a pass because you're probably going to set that once and forget it. And that's it. That's the entire settings. I'm going to go back up for a second to the DCHX, or the DSD Room Mastering. The DSD Room Mastering has off or on. That's it. And I've played with the sound. I've sit here, listen to music, put headphones in, and then on the remote, here's DSD Room Mastering, on. Off. On. That's... You buy this amp, that's going to be you for 3 days. I'm the reviewer. I have to sit here. I have to know what that does. So I'm required by law, not actually law. I do it because it's what I have to sort of do. But I'm required by internet honesty law to sit here and determine what the fuck that's doing. And it's changing something, and I don't know if it's worth it. Like, I'll put it on. If I'm just listening to this thing, if you're just buying it and you're not reviewing it, you're just buying it, turn it on, listen. You like it? Leave it on. I don't care. If you're a purist, you're going to shut it off. I have it in my head, though. It's like that little itchy bit in your ear. It's like, ee. That thing is on. It's fucking with it. And I'm like, oh, shit. Back to the menu. So that's DSD remastering. And I guess that just upscales everything to DSD. And then you get DCHX. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because on the remote, you can just turn it on or off. On, off. Here, you can choose off, standard, female vocal, male vocal, percussion, or strings. That screams DSP corrections. Screams it, fucking from the hills. Ha! Now, I've dealt with shit like this before. I even praised it, the SMSL SU8, or my VMVD1. SMSL VMVD1. Those DACs, and those are purely DACs, have not equalizers, but like DSP corrections, like crystal and tube. And if you put on crystal, you have 3 mode levels of crystal, and it gets a little bit sharper every time. If you put on tube, it sort of warms up the bass a little bit. And those are fine. Those are little flavors you could add. But when it says something specific like strings, what are you doing? What is your do? Because I'm jumping around my playlist all the time. If you're someone who has like only strings, by all means, put on strings, see if it improves your strings. Only percussion. I don't know many people who listen to just percussion, but you can set the percussion preset. Same with male and female vocal. So I'd put it on standard basically, and then I turned it off. And then I put it on standard, and I turned it off. And when I put on both the DCHX and the DSD remastering to full, I honestly I didn't prefer the way that sounded versus both of them being off. And it's lovely, absolutely fucking lovely that the remote includes those buttons right here, because I can go, watch, little light's gonna come on, ready? Now it's on. And now it's off. Now that one's on. Now that one's on. So you can actually sit there and just dick with it. This is a good unit if you like dicking. Do you like dicking? Who doesn't like a good dicking? Just sit there and dick with it. Does this do anything? Does this do anything? I just wish you could switch between those DC modes with this and not just on-off. So you have to actually set the mode you want to listen to, and then I thought maybe if you held it. No, it's just on-off. Good remote, by the way. Look at this remote. Wish it was metal. It's plastic. This would be insanely nice if it was metal. But still, just the shape and the form factor and the fact that they actually put the buttons where they belong is nice. So, and then we get to the high-low gain, which is a physical switch and not in the menu. I kind of prefer that. Although, most modern units that do a high-low gain switch will usually get a, like even my fucking now 4-year-old Oppo Ha2, when you flip the switch, it would dim the audio and then bring it back up in case you fucked up. And this doesn't. This literally goes, I'm playing louder! And it's like, oh shit. So that's very old school. Let's put on, let's see, we got these on now. And oh, by the way, I'm just using, I have, in case you don't know how I built my cables, these are 1/4-inch Polynic patch cables that I got 10-foot lengths of, cut in half, attach the connectors for whatever headphone. I have like 5 or 6 of these. So I cut these really nice, soft patch cables in half. I'll link to one of these patch cables if you want to try the system. And then I have 1/4-inch connectors, and I built a little breakout box so I don't have to use XLRs, and I was just like, boom, cut one, attach, big thick wires, nice and smooth and flowy. I like wires that flow. Look at the flow on this wire. Professional low noise instrument cable. And I put them into 1/4-inch adapters. I think these are Grados, actually. I have several sets of Grados, and I think these came with them. And just plugged them in, there you go. I don't know of anything that actually uses dual 3.5 millimeters. So let's see. Let's change our output to something there. High gain. Now, was trying to use low gain as much as possible. You're always supposed to start on low gain. Because that's just, the less you have to stress the amplifier, the better. If you can get by with low gain and you're not like maxing out the volume, by all means. Now, low gain, I can get to like 13 decibels. And this is a very over-recorded deadmau5 track. But when I was going to this quieter stuff, things that are actually like well recorded, I was getting near 10 decibels, and I'm like, that's a little bit too close to the top, so jack it up to high. And I ended up keeping it on high for like everything. Even my most sensitive headphones, which are these, which are the, yes, 3.5 millimeter output. If I put them on low, they got it loud enough on like 20. So yeah, I have one pair of headphones in this desk that I would probably use on low gain, and that's these, because they're super efficient. So, now that I've taken you on the tour of what this unit is physically capable of, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 front outputs, because this counts as one single output, and then a single output on the back and multiple inputs. So it's loaded, and then the Walkman input in case you just happen to have a Sony Walkman trying to lure you into their ecosystem. How does it sound? Good. It sounds good. It's just good. That's unfortunate. I wish it was more than good, because it is a solidly built unit. It is reliable. It gets a little warm. That's fine. I want my audio gear to get a little warm. I get a little nervous when my THX789s sit there and don't even produce heat. What's wrong with you? What fucking magic is in you? But I could sit here and I could listen to any number of headphones, and I'm absolutely satisfied that this is good. Now, if I go back and I start putting on DHC and Dsd Room Mastering, it's still just good. Now I'm a little bit fickle. Well, I switched the input. I switched the output, actually. I wish we can go back. Lower the volume. It goes nice and fast in the volume too. I've listened to pretty much one of the best amplifiers that are available right now. The KN that I reviewed, that IHA6 for $700, destroys this. For power, for cleanliness. I mean, that's the only thing that touches and beats the 789. But the 789 for $350, as far as just an amplification section, THX Tech beats what's in this. I never plugged a headphone into this and went, holy shit, like I did with the 789 or the KN. Just never did. They're very good outputs. They're very clean. You could adjust many settings. It's more DAC here than amp, especially at only 1.3 watts. 1.3 watts per channel. That's probably enough to do most headphones, but I'm less than 5. I'm at -5 dB to push these. This is some of the hardest I have, but they don't. It's not swimming in power, and for the weight of it, it should be swimming in power. The KN was swimming in power. The 789 is 6 watts a channel, not 1.3. So it's lacking a little bit of the go. And then we could talk about the DAC. Now, we've talked about DACs here, and I reviewed the Qtist, and I was like, look, it's not worth it. It's this, it's that. And I'd probably say the DAC in this is better than the Qtist simply because you know at least you're getting balanced. Where the Qtist was RCA outs, and that was it. And all the taps. Just shovel taps in it, people will buy it. Give me balanced, make it clean, and make it cheap. Now, this isn't exactly cheap. And the Qtist was literally like $200, $300 less than this. But this is the entirety of this. So this is already a better bargain than the Qtist. Qtist is a lot of name. There's a lot of name in that. But like the monoprice is about the same power. And I think it sounds a little cleaner than this. Link to the monoprice DAC amp in the description. I'm going to link to this. It's a solid unit. Solid. Absolutely 5 years ago, king of the fucking mountain. King of the hill. Oh, you got the Sony. That's the best one. But THX Tech exists. Good, cheap DACs exist. I was going back and forth between that DAC and the DAC and this. And I'll give it that DAC and this DAC do not sound the same. But also that DAC is not as loud as this DAC. And I can't quite get it to balance. And I'm not sure if what I'm hearing is that DAC being fucked with upscaling. Because I know that's a good DAC because I plug it into that and it's fucking amazing. Or if it's this DAC being so beyond that anything that I can't even fathom it. It's like I'm plugging somebody from the Matrix over here. Jesus shit. Okay. I don't want to crush the knob. Look how pretty it is. There's a forced service thing. There's your beautiful RCAs. There's your USB coax, optical, and AC in. It's so pretty and clean and neat. And the front. Look at the front. Just doesn't that scream I'm expensive and I do my job? It does for me. But if you said I could have this or the Klipsch, Heritage amp, I'll take the Klipsch Heritage amp. It's prettier. It's got more. It just does what this does, but cheaper, way cheaper. And then the monoprice over the THX, take that over it. If you could afford or find a 79 and it's a couple. Sony is consistently a few years too late. This would have blown socks off 5 years ago. If they were willing to throw THX tech in it, and then really get a nice stepladder DAC. I'm sure the DAC in it is fine. It's fine. I'm sure the DAC is fine. It's all about the amplification levels, and it's not a bad amp. It's just I didn't fall in love with this Sony. I fell in love with the fact that I could plug 6 headphones in, or at least 5 to the unit, and then have it output to another amp. That's cool as hell. But I'm not sold on the Sony. Remember the Sony Explode speakers, and the joke was that that's what they did. They exploded. Yeah, that still rings true a lot of the time. I don't think this is going to have a problem. This feels like it's made with care. Sony surround receivers were I never liked those at all. This feels like a quality piece. It's designed well. Besides that sticker, that was a fail. Stop failing. But the price tag is heavy. The unit is heavy. And it isn't that powerful. And it's not one of those situations where it's like, well, all you need is the first watt to be really good. I'm pushing some of these headphones and it feels like this thing is underpowering them. So, I applaud your efforts, Sony. Take it back. Reevaluate the price on it. Because this thing is $2,000 plus. If you haven't checked. I like to keep the price a secret. Because I want people to go, ooh, that's probably worth like $700. And then be like, holy shit, did you just say $2,200? Fuck off. And then they just hit the X on Firefox. So, or Chrome. What was the other one? Safari? No, what's the other one? My friend in Australia used to use Opera. Hit the X on Opera to close this video. So yeah, it's I feel like if Audio God stepped up their game, like their build game, I haven't reviewed an Audio God product in a while, and I sort of miss that company because they had infinitely good stuff internally, but all the little shit was just like wrong and bad. And if they could produce something that was built this well and sounded this good and then cost Audio God prices, which would probably be like $600-700. If this cost $1,000, it's a buy. It's a straight up buy because the KN's 800, but it's only an amp. If this was $1,000, what it does is amazing and would be absolutely worth it for the switching and the remote and all this would all add up. But that would be like a 55% off sale. So unfortunately, it's like. And now we move on. So, if you enjoyed this video and you like to support videos like this, please join or check out my Patreon at least. A lot of people who loan me these things are patrons. A man who's paying me money sent me this, and I just went, to his face. Thank you. Also, the benefits of the Patreon are you get to see this review about a week early. That's not super important for a lot of things, but some other things where it's like, hey, this $80 headphone is the most amazing thing and you should buy it. You'll get the heads up, and instead of 10,000 people seeing that in one day, maybe 100 see it in one day. So you might actually get a set. You get to ask me any questions you want on the Patreon as well. You could ask me questions via the messaging system, which sort of sucks, which is why the $10 tier exists, where you can you get into a group chat on Telegram, which is amazing. A lot of people in there just help each other. I don't have to participate, but I still do. And finally, yard sales. Whereas I've bought those are loaners, those maybe. And at the end of the month, from the 1st to the 10th of the next month, I sell everything. Just portable players and speakers and amps and subs and, I don't know, baby subs and power cords and IEMs. And you could, highest bidder, blind auction starting at $0, I pay shipping. So if you want to get in on that little action, that's $5 a month. Other than that, I can't help out. HiFiGuides.com is linked in the description as well. It's sort of like a in beta website to try to help you pick out headphones, but eventually it's going to have DACs and amps and speakers and everything else. We're working on that, but check that out. Give me some feedback. And check out the public Telegram. There is a Z Reviews public Telegram, which I will link in the description, and there's like 700 people in there. So there's also a Discord you can find on my subreddit. So thank you for sticking around for, 29 fucking minutes of me telling you that this is very expensive and very heavy and has cool features. The whole input light thing where it lights up is cool. I don't know about actually like the way it's situated though. Like if you're sitting here on the desk, this is perfect. But if you were trying to put this in an equipment rack or you were using it in a living room, there's no indicators in the front to tell you what's going on. You have to look down. So you'd have to put a piece of equipment, if you added something, it would have to fit from here back and not cover the vents. I approve of so much stuff that this thing does, and then at the same time I'm like, So I guess I'll see you all tomorrow. Wallpaper, AI Chan looking cute in the description. It's nice. I'm promoting another YouTuber. That's always good. So she's down there. Patreon's down there. Links to this. Links to a bunch of these headphones. Links to a couple alternatives to this. Because not everyone's got $2,200, and frankly, you don't need to spend that much right now. And, yeah, I'll see you all tomorrow. Again.